Good evening, people. What's going on? It's your boy Daryl here from the Boxing Lowdown, and welcome to episode number 56 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast. And as always, man, I'm delighted to be joined by you know who it is, man, the main man, Mr. Controversial, my father, right here in the building, Laurie from AFTV in the house. What's going on, man? Yo, I see you got a. Do you know what I mean? You're not using your phone today.
No, I've got my laptop, man. Production quality's gone up.
Yeah, man.
But hang on a minute. So how am I doing? How's that, right? Not bad for 21-0, yeah? Hang on. How's that? You like it? Yeah, I like it. Yeah, is that all right? Yeah, is that soft enough? Yeah, is that okay? I haven't hurt you too much, have I? What was all
I can
that
get used
about,
to this.
man? What was that about?
We're gonna cook on it. We're gonna cook on it, man. For
We've
sure.
got to cook on that, man. We've got to.
We had to move this podcast from a Thursday to a Friday. It was my nephew's birthday yesterday, so I had to go and see him. And listen, man, very good showing plan for tonight. I did a post-fight reaction to Canelo and Plant, so you guys have heard my feelings on that. We've got Laurie in the house tonight, man, and you guys know who Laurie's favorite fighter is. So we're going to hear him cook on it a bit as well today. Big up to everybody, first of all, that enters the chat. You all know the drill. Hit the like button. It's important. Share the video. It's important. And as you can see on the ticker there below, subscribe to the Boxing Lowdown on YouTube. I uploaded a couple of videos today. There's going to be more to come on a regular now. So we're going to be pushing out more content. But this podcast will stay the same, man. We're going to cook it raw today. And big up everybody. We've got some comments already. Ian Hamilton in the building. He's put, yes, evening, guys. Here we go. Let's get into that. Not like a ginger Mexican that Laurie has an opinion on wasn't fighting this weekend. So he's saying, let's get into it. It's not like a ginger Mexican that Laurie has an opinion on was fighting this weekend. So you know Laurie's going to cook today. Francisco in the building. He's put, good morning, brothers. Good morning to you, Francisco. I've sent that T-shirt over. That's going all the way to Arizona, Laurie, that T-shirt. Wow. That's where Francisco is. So I'll send that in the post. He's going to get that very soon. Well, probably be like a week or something, wouldn't it? But he'll get that T-shirt anyway. Conrad Boxing in the building. He's put, good evening. I'm always looking forward to this show. Let's cook, man. Conrad always here. Ian's always here. You know what I mean? Francisco is here. Big up to everybody, man. And let's get straight into it. Laurie, we all know that Canelo and Plant took place last weekend. Canelo becoming the undisputed super middleweight champion, the first undisputed super middleweight champion. And he's also the first Mexican undisputed champion as well. Canelo has picked up titles in light middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight. Fantastic career. Only lost the one fight to Floyd Mayweather. He's got a draw. He's got a little blemish on his resume there with that loss. But with what Canelo has achieved now, let me just ask you right now, is he the greatest Mexican boxer of all time?
Not only is he the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, he's the greatest fighter, period. I've never seen anyone like this guy. The speed, the angles, the power, the footwork, the boxing skill. Come on, man. He's not the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. And even if I thought he was, I'm not going to give it to him, man. I told you, I'm not acknowledging drugs cheats. You know what I mean? I don't give all.
Can you not give him no credit?
No.
not for nothing. Not so. Whatever he does now, no matter what, you're not going to give him credit for it.
No, well, I will give him credit. I've said on this show many times, he's a great fighter. I've never, ever said that he wasn't. What I'm saying is, though, once you're a drugs cheat, once you're a convicted drugs cheat, I think certain things should be off the table. So for like pound for pound, he will never top my pound for pound listings, right? And I will never say that he's the greatest Mexican fighter, because the thing about drugs is, right, Daryl, is that when someone's a convicted drugs cheat, how much of their career do you really believe? And there should be a punishment for drugs cheats in that they should not be given those kind of hallowed status as the greatest this, the greatest that, because if they were that great, they wouldn't need to cheat. But anyway, that being said, congratulations to Canelo for last week. It was a good performance. I wouldn't say it was great, to be honest. I'm not going to. I've seen a lot of people, oh, look at that. You know what I mean? He's the greatest Mexican fighter. Nonsense. What, because he beat Caleb Plant? A lot of people were rubbishing Caleb Plant
because he beat Caleb Plant.
No, but a lot of these guys were rubbishing Caleb Plant before the fight, saying that he was, Canelo will walk through him, he's nothing. Now he's beating him. He's the greatest Mexican fighter, better than Salvador Sanchez? People like that. Better than Manuel Marquez? No, I don't think so.
Julio
the
Cesar Chavez.
The jury's out, man. The jury's out. I'm not Mexican, obviously. I'd be interested to see what I wonder what Francisco thinks. You know what I mean? But I don't think so. I think he's got a long way to go yet, man. You know what I mean?
Got a couple more comments here. We got a very special guest in the chat today, man. Big up Jeff TV in the building. He's put, I'm in here early today. Laurie, please cook on Caleb Ice Cream Plant. What's up, fellas? Laurie, what was your thoughts on that? I mean, I know you touched on it in the intro there with Caleb Plant. And let me just give you my thoughts. I know you saw the show I did on Monday. I thought that Caleb Plant was doing pretty well. There was a lot of, different opinions on the scorecards, but I did think that Caleb Plant was doing well. He was boxing a very good game for me, but I always got the sense that Canelo would come on strong, and he was coming on strong. Now, when I did see it, at the end, it doesn't matter if you had Caleb Plant up or not, because the ending was very conclusive. There was no controversy around that at all. So there were more controversy was around the scorecards and everything else. And, but during that fight, Caleb Plant, I can't remember what round it was, but he was basically talking to Canelo. And when I first heard about it, I was just like, yo, he's talking to Canelo. He must be really confident here. Like, he's talking about him. But then when I saw what he was saying, am I doing all right? How am I looking? Am I looking good? Good for 21-0, right? I thought, oh, he's just taking a piss. But when I actually watched it, it didn't seem like he was. It was almost like he was doing it to see if Canelo did rate him or not. And Canelo didn't take the bait.
He was doing it to seek validation from Canelo.
Do you think that's what it was? Or
I found that utterly bizarre. I have to say, I've never seen anything like that in all the time I've been watching boxing. Now, what I have seen is fighters taunting other fighters if they're running away with a fight. They'll be saying, I could understand that. But like at the time when he did that, there was still a hell of a lot to play for. He was still a long way to go. And you're like running away from Canelo, sticking out a half-assed jab and asking him, how am I doing? Not bad for 21-0. And you saw Canelo's, yeah, you're all right. But you know what? To go back to your initial question, I actually, being the kind of nerdy boxing fan that I am, when I stayed up late to watch a fight, I grabbed for my notepad and pen and I scored the fight because I thought to myself beforehand, I go, there's probably going to be an element of controversy here. So let me score the fight and let me try and be as objective as I possibly can. Which isn't easy because, as you know, I'm not the greatest fan of Canelo outside the ring. So I have to sort of discipline myself to be objective. And I'll be honest and say that at the time of the stoppage, I had Caleb Plant up by a round or two. There were some close rounds. I mean, let's face it, man, there was a lot of rounds where it was kind of difficult to score the fight because Caleb Plant was probably outscoring Canelo in a lot of the rounds, but a lot of his work wasn't really what I would call had conviction to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was throwing a lot of jabs, but you could see they had nothing on them really. You know what I mean? But then Canelo wasn't doing nothing. I've always said that Canelo is a slow starter. He doesn't crank up the engine till about round 5 or 6, it seems, in his fights. So he seems quite content to give away the early rounds. He's done this before. And indeed, he did that in this fight. And then even when he cranked the engine up, man, he never got into full flow, did he? I think the movement of Caleb Plant definitely gave him problems. The switching to southpaw at times gave him an issue. And I thought Caleb Plant was boxing reasonably well. He was doing well. And like I said, you could make a case for him being up on the cards, although it was redundant in the end because he got caught and got put away. But yeah, man. So after the fight, the first thing I did was try and find out what the scorecards were. And of course, all 3 of them were resoundingly in favor of Canelo. Not even close. They're all at him like
Well, no,
Like,
one card was like 96, 94, but the other two was like 98, 92,
yeah.
97, 93. But could you agree? Could you kind of like, because you did say some of the rounds were tough to score. So are you against like that card where Canelo could be a round or two up? Because even though I had Plant one up, I wasn't against the idea. I wouldn't argue too much with someone that had Canelo a couple of rounds up. It was just the cards that were like 98, 92, which I had a problem with. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I had a big problem with that because there was no way he was 98, 92.
No,
No
I'm
way.
saying, could you see how someone could score it 96, 94 Canelo? Or
Yeah,
have,
I could.
yeah,
And I'll tell you why. Not because I thought Canelo was doing that great. It's because a lot of the work that Caleb Plant was putting forth didn't have enough conviction to it. I mean, listen, had that been an amateur fight, Caleb Plant would have won that fight. But professional fighting is different. You know what I mean? You've got to put more pop on the punches.
yeah.
And if you're backing, especially if you're backing off, you've got to let your hands go and let your hands go where you impress the judges enough that they're going to give you the round. If you're backing off and throwing what I call keep me off punches, keep off me punches, it doesn't resonate too well with the judges. So yeah, I mean, listen, man, we said before the fight, didn't we, that if it goes to points, there's no way Caleb Plant was going to get a decision anyway. So although that aspect of the fight disappointed me, I was not in any way surprised because we've seen this time and time again with Canelo. I don't know who's going to beat him, you know. I don't know who's going to beat him because number one, he fights who he wants to fight, right? And when he wants to fight them. Number two, he's got the judges in his pocket. And number three, let's be honest, man, he's a great fighter, so it's going to be hard to beat him anyway. So at this point, there's a couple of names out there you could call out. I mean, I think Benavidez has a shout. And if he moves up to light heavyweight, Canelo that is, then there's some interesting challenges up there for him. But, I mean, people are talking about Jamal Charlo. No chance. Charlo's not going to beat Canelo. No chance.
Let me go back to your point earlier about, Canelo's legacy and where he ranks amongst the all-time Mexican greats. We did get a comment from Francisco on it, and he says here, I like Canelo, but I agree with Laurie's criticism, yet based on championships. You can make the case for Canelo as number one. This generation has anointed him as number one, but I'm over 50. There are several Mexicans that I prefer. And listen, when you make the case for Canelo number one, I mean, there are loads of great Mexican fighters that you can make the case for. So it's not cut and dry, but it does seem like he's just been anointed as number one. Big up Dean Sinclair. He's put, yes, family. He's also put, I hope you're both well. And he says here, I had it 5-5 going into the 11th. 2 of the 3 cards were a joke. This sport is corrupt. Francisco says here, Salvador Sanchez was the most talented Mexican. He died in a car crash aged 23, but he had already defended the featherweight title 10 times, beating 3 other Hall of Famers, Lopez, Gomez, and Nelson.
You see, that's it. You see, I mean, I'm a bit older than Francisco, but we're in that same kind of age range. And I remember Salvador Sanchez. I remember Salvador Sanchez fighting Azuma Nelson. You know what I mean? Those were the types of guys that Salvador Sanchez was taking on and beating. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, Salvador Sanchez, Julio Cesar Chavez, Manuel Marquez. You know what I mean?
Barrera, there's loads of Eric.
Yeah, there's loads of fighters, man. Listen, man.
Ricardo Lopez was a great fighter.
On ability and skills and everything else and power, Canelo ranks highly. But like I said, the ped issue is big for me. Doesn't seem to be as big for a lot of other people in the sport, which is disappointing. Like I said, I think maybe those people are waiting for somebody to either get seriously hurt or die at the hands of a drugs cheat, and then you'll see all this fake outrage. Oh, you got to get the drug cheats out of boxing. But for now, Canelo's riding that wave. And what's amazing to me, and me and you spoke in the week about this, Daryl, is the sheer sycophancy that goes around Canelo, man. Not just from the establishment, not just from the WBC, but other fighters as well. You know, I mean, it's amazing. Like, you see what some of them tweet out both before and after Canelo fights, and you think to yourself, wow, man. And some of these guys that are doing this stuff are supposed to be guys that are supposed to be competing with him. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, I remember with Floyd back in the day when he was active in the welterweight division. There were people like Devon Alexander and those, they used to be like that around Floyd. Like they used to.
No, man, they all wanted to fight him.
Nah, I saw they gave that acknowledgement as well, man. They were like that as well.
No, but it wasn't as universal as Canelo, man. Seriously, it wasn't. I mean, I'm seeing people like Gervonta Davis say, yeah, that's Canelo's me at 168. I'm seeing people like Devin Haney, oh, Canelo's the baddest MF period. Like, come on, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
What, are they not allowed to acknowledge him? What, they're not allowed to give him credit?
The over the topness. I think they're just trying to curry favor with the different fan bases. I'm sure that's what it is. Because like Canelo ain't showing none of you lot that love, bro. You know what I mean? He barely acknowledges these guys. You know what I mean? All of these guys, like, will show up to Canelo's fights dressed up in some weird outfits and all this jewelry on, and they're bringing their girlfriends and wives along, and they're treating Canelo's fight like some red carpet affair, yeah? Let me ask you a question, and everybody else out there watching. Have you ever seen Canelo at one of these guys' fights? When he's asked about these guys, he doesn't even acknowledge them. I've seen interviews of Canelo before, and they'll ask him about a certain fight. Yeah, he's all right, yeah. And they'll say, oh, did you see his last fight? Oh, I saw a couple of rounds, yeah, you know. You know what I mean? And then you get the reaction of these guys. Not only do they turn up to his fights, they're lavishing him with praise. And I'm thinking, like, you guys are supposed to be competing with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, so that whole aura around Canelo, it's just something else. I've never seen anything like it. In all my years, but I would comfortably say this here and now. The kind of adulation that guy gets across the board is something that I've not seen before in my time in boxing. Most fighters have to retire or die before they get that type of adulation when they're current. Floyd did not get
different era. It's a different era though. We've got social media. It's a lot different now compared to back then, isn't it?
It could be. You could be right. It could be symptomatic of this current era that we're in. But you know what I mean? I've always thought that. You know what I mean? You don't get that in UFC. You know, you don't get it. Like the other guys there, they will minimize the achievements because even if they're not in that weight class, they're trying to aspire to be the best. They want to be the one that gets talked about. I'm not saying you have to disrespect a guy and be ridiculous in your shit, but in boxing, anything to do with Canelo, oh, he's the best. Oh, yeah, he's a beast. I'm thinking.
Let me go to some comments, man.
Right? Caleb Plant was comfortably outboxing Canelo at times.
I wouldn't say I don't know, man. Comfortably?
Yeah, because there were rounds when Canelo weren't doing nothing. He weren't throwing no punches.
Let me get to some comments, man. We got a lot in here. I need to get through them. Dean Sinclair has put here, after the Plant fight, I'm even more convinced that Benavidez gives Canelo huge problems. And Benavidez is fighting this weekend against Kyron Ellis. We'll get onto that as well.
Kyron Davis. Yeah. I'm looking forward.
Kyron Davis. Yeah, sorry. Kyron, yeah.
Davis.
Yeah, they're fighting this weekend, sorry. Born Again Biker has put here, why do you think Canelo suddenly started speaking in English? The promotion behind him are trying to sell him to a wider audience around the world. Conrad has said here, the punch stats were fairly even before the stoppage, with Canelo, however, landing way more power shots. Ian Hamilton says here, Canelo just seems unbeatable at the moment. For me, the only true thing that beats him is himself. Conrad says here, I can see why that makes more of an impression ringside. And Ian Hamilton has said here, here's a fantasy one for you, Laurie. Canelo, what's the point of asking Laurie this, man? But he's put here, Canelo versus either Marvin Hagler or James Toney at 160. How would those fights go? I thought I'd ask the knowledge.
I couldn't see Canelo beating either. Not a prime Hagler or James Toney, man. You know what I mean? He'd do better against James Toney because James Toney was notoriously indisciplined with his weight and things like that. So I think he'd have a better chance against Toney, but he'd have no chance against Hagler. None. You know what I mean?
We lose on points?
Yeah, because he would. I mean, Hagler had the same type of chin that Canelo's got. So Canelo wouldn't have been able to knock him out. That being said, I don't think Hagler would knock Canelo out either. But he'd bust him up, man, behind that jab. Hagler, he was the perfectly well-rounded fighter. Whereas Canelo, I still think he's got a suspect gas tank because he fights in spurts. And he always starts very slow. He doesn't fight 3 minutes a round. So could you see him beating Hagler like that? I couldn't. But listen, man, as I keep saying, Canelo is a great fighter. I do have issues around certain things, which I'm not going to continue to belabor. Everyone who watches this show knows what those things are. But if I'm looking at him and Hagler, I think Hagler is more talented, pound for pound, than Canelo is.
Okay. Last one on Canelo before we go, because we do have some other topics to talk about today. Who would you? I mean, Canelo was asked when he's likely to be back in the ring. He said it will be May. He said he's taking a little break. And who would you like to see? Who would you like to see him in with next? I mean, at super middleweight, I gave my opinion on this on Monday's show. But at super middleweight, you've got the likes of a Benavidez and a Charlo if he moves up. Then you've got light heavyweight. You've got people like Artur Beterbiev. You've got your boy Dmitry Bivol. You've got other guys out there. Who would you like to see Canelo fight next, in your opinion?
Well, one name springs to mind. And that is David Benavidez. I'll be interested to see how David Benavidez gets on this week. Incidentally, David Benavidez, he's from Arizona. Isn't that where Francisco hails from? So I'll be interested to find out if Francisco's a fan of David Benavidez. I do like him, man, Benavidez. I think he's a very good fighter. Would he beat Canelo? Again, he's not going to beat Canelo on points. So he'd have to knock him out. Does he carry enough power to knock him out? I'm not so sure. I don't think he does. So I'd have to lean towards Canelo again, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think, I don't get me wrong, I think Benavidez has got a chance. But I don't see him beating Canelo right now. That's just me being honest, man. Charlo, a lot of people are mentioning him. I already think Charlo's past his best. His last couple of fights, he's not looked that good. By all accounts, he leads a
he looked all right. He looked pretty good against Derevyanchenko.
You reckon?
Yeah. He did. Come on, man. Well, you don't think he looked good?
No, don't get me wrong. He won the fight, but
going into that fight, there were a lot of people picking against Charlo in that fight. Because many people believe Derevyanchenko defeated Golovkin, and they looked at him as a dangerous opponent.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah. So Charlo, he won that pretty convincingly for me against Derevyanchenko. Come on, man. You was impressed by that performance, man.
Yeah, I mean, but I haven't seen enough of him to suggest to me he's going to beat Canelo. And again, he's not going to get nothing on points against Canelo. He's just not. This is the reality of the situation, Daryl. None of these, you saw the scorecards the other day. 98, 92, and whatever. No one's going to get a season.
The thing is, some people, I mean, I never had it like that at all either, but there were other people that did have it like that. So
yeah, I think that, you know what it is, right? And that's why I'm not really going to go crazy with a 96, 94, because some of the rounds, I must admit, even at the time when I marked the 10 for Plant, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to give it to him because he's probably thrown more punches. But the quality of some of his shots were not of the standard that you would expect in a world title fight, especially a man that's trying to wrest the title from the champion. There's this old adage in boxing. I don't necessarily agree with it. It says that it's almost like you've got to rip the title away from the champion. That's the way boxing works. It's unlike other sports in that way. You know what I mean? In tennis, for example, you get more points than your opponent. Doesn't matter if he's Roger Federer or if he's ranked 255th in the world. You win the match. In boxing, you can land more shots than the champion. And listen, we can debate the rights or wrongs of this, but I'm just telling you how boxing works. So if you're throwing a lot of punches, but there's no power, no pop on them, a lot of people watching the fight will say, well, actually, you haven't done enough to take the title away from the champion. We've seen that so many times over the years. To be fair, not just with Canelo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I did kind of think when I was marking the rounds to Plant, I was thinking, you know what? Some people might have seen that round and seen it the other way, because in a lot of those rounds as well, Canelo was the aggressor. He's the one that's coming forward. Now, I've always thought that if you're coming forward, but you're not landing any shots, you might as well not bother coming forward because you're not really, you know what I mean, doing enough to win the round. But
There
some
was a
people
time.
in a low-scoring fight where there's not a lot of like hard punches going in, they tend to reward the aggressor because they will say, well, at least he's trying to make the fight. The other guy's backing off.
There was a time when Canelo was literally on the ropes, saying to Caleb Plant, "Come on, man, come on, hit me with something, man.
Yeah.
Come on,
And
hit
he
me."
threw about 6
And he
jabs.
just
Now,
he was just like,
yeah. Now that's actually, Daryl, you've made an excellent point there. So let's take that in isolation for 1 minute. You had Canelo against the ropes. You're the challenger. Canelo's the champion. You should know that everyone in that arena pretty much is on Canelo's side, including the judges. Call it subconscious bias or whatever, but that's just the way it seems to work. Anyway, so you got this guy pinned up against the ropes. That is your opportunity now to let your hands go and maybe do some damage, or at least let Canelo know you're there. You know what I mean? What does he do? He's doing this. Now, in that sequence, he's landed because some of the jabs did land in the stomach and maybe around the head and all that. So he's shown 6, 7 jabs, yeah? Canelo's done nothing. But when you look at that again, are you really going to say he did anything in that sequence? Because Canelo said, come on. You know, and Canelo stayed on the ropes for about a good 20, 30 seconds that happened, wasn't it?
yeah.
And Caleb Plant did not make the best of that opportunity. And I just thought to myself, as well as he boxed at times, I don't think he gave everything of himself to win. There's a difference between boxing well and going in there to win, going in there to take that title off the champion. And I've got to be honest, as much as I like Caleb Plant and I loved his attitude before the fight, but I have to be brutally honest, man. I've got to keep it 100, especially I'm on a platform like this. People are listening to what I've got to say. I can't front. I can't cap. He didn't do enough, really and truly, to win that fight.
Yeah, what more can he do, though? I mean, he can't really crack an egg,
You've got to
really.
be prepared. Listen, when you're fighting a guy like Canelo, man, the mindset has got to be as such that you're going in there and you're thinking, I'm going to give everything I've got to win this fight. And even then,
You don't think he did that?
You know what I mean? But that is the mentality you got to have. And until I see somebody go in the ring with Canelo with that type of attitude, this man is going to, he got beat by Floyd, obviously, but he's probably going to go the rest of his career without losing, because when these guys get in there, man, unfortunately, they're not showing that same hunger and passion that you would expect for somebody trying to win a title. I can go right through.
Hold that thought, because here's someone that did go in there with the passion to win. And Dean Sinclair says, I had Triple G winning 8-4 in that first fight, and he still didn't get the win. So even when you do fight with that passion and
that's what I just said. That's what I just said. The only way you're going to beat Canelo is to knock him out. And then, unfortunately for his challenges out there, the guy's got one hell of a chin. Yeah. Canelo, in that second fight with Golovkin, and I agree with Dean, by the way, I thought Triple G clearly won the first fight. But again, he was never going to get no love on the scorecards. But in the second fight, Canelo, and incidentally, that was after he doing all the drugs thing. But anyway, put that aside for 1 second. In that second fight, I seen Canelo go toe-to-toe with Triple G, right? And he took some of Triple G's best shots, bounced off the chin. And you know what Canelo did to him? He was doing that. And not only did he do that, I've got to give him credit. He came back with a salvo of his own immediately, as if to say, look, now, unless Caleb Plant and all that, you've got to have that attitude that Canelo showed in that fight with Triple G. Because to be fair to Canelo, what he did, he rationalized to himself. The first fight with Triple G, I showed him too much respect. I backed off. I allowed him to back me up, yeah? And it cost me rounds. In that second fight, you saw the difference. I've got to give Canelo credit for that. And you saw
you're giving him credit, man. Wow.
I'll give him credit. I'll give him credit.
Let's go to another.
So what I'm saying is his mentality, Daryl, in the second fight with Triple G was completely different to the first fight. In the first fight, he tried to box off the back foot.
Yeah.
And he was beaten, although he got a draw. We all know, man. Everybody knows that he really lost that fight. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
In the second fight, though, to be fair to Canelo, he took a totally different mentality going into the ring. He was the one backing up Triple G. And even if you weren't backing him up, he stood his ground and he let his hands go. He tried to hurt him. And that's why he ended up getting a decision. In the second fight, again, some people thought it was close, but I thought that Canelo won the fight, if I'm being honest.
Francisco says here, I like Benavidez. And yeah, I live in Tucson, Arizona now, a couple of hours south of Benavidez, who is in Phoenix, but I'm originally from San Francisco. So
It's
that's
Tucson, Daryl. Tucson, not Tucson.
Oh, I don't know,
Tucson,
man.
Arizona.
Tucson,
But yeah,
Arizona.
I only know that because I've got American friends and they've told me. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm not there with the lingo, man. But yeah, Benavidez fight. We'll click on that fight in a minute. I just wanted to get your thoughts on something else before we do. But let me go into this comment quickly here. Ian Hamilton says here, thinking about all this talk about Canelo, it reminds me of the Klitschko's. They dictate everything, literally, always in Germany. For a long time, they made it impossible to beat them unless you're Tyson Fury.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. It's not quite the same as Canelo, though, I don't think. It's not quite the same, man. Canelo.
But Vladimir, at a period, he was when he was on his title, when he was having those title defenses against the likes of Pulev, Povetkin, and those kind of guys. He was dictating everything at that time, wasn't he?
And he was also knocking those guys out. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but I also remember against Povetkin, he was really like on the borderline of breaking the rules in that fight of all that holding he was doing. Yeah. But he was able to get away with it. Yeah. Francisco says here, Benavidez has enough power to keep Canelo honest. Canelo can't walk through him. Benavidez loves to let his hands go, and Canelo is a good counterpuncher. That could be the difference.
Good points made. Because I guess the alternative to what I've said before, if you are going to stay in the pocket and let your hands go, that's quite a dangerous strategy when you're coming up against somebody like Canelo. So maybe the game plan to beat him will be a boxer puncher, box at times and punch at other times. But when I look at how Floyd beat him, man, I mean, Floyd didn't run, did he? Floyd never ran.
No, he didn't run. No,
he just boxed his ears off. Okay, you could say that Canelo was a while ago, and Canelo's got better now. I'm sure he has got better. But Floyd laid out the blueprint, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what Caleb Plant was doing in there, he boxed well. But to me, it wasn't the type of performance that was ever going to get him a win against Canelo. You got to be able to try and put some purpose on your punches, man. You know what I mean? You can't, he's got to respect your power. Even if you're not a puncher, you've got to hit him with something that he's going to think twice about just rushing in and just bullying you. You know what I mean?
Marlo Stanfield says here, how do you guys see Canelo versus Charlo going? I know you said earlier you don't think Charlo has any chance.
I'm not seeing it, man. I don't think I've seen Charlo's last couple of fights. Unlike you, Joe, I wasn't overly impressed with the Derevchenko win. When he fought the last guy, Montiel, he didn't look that great. Even when he fought, remember when he fought that black guy, Brandon Adams, he didn't look that great in that fight.
No, I didn't. No.
You know what I mean?
I didn't look good against the Irish fighter either.
People thought he lost that fight. You know what I mean? So do those kind of performances really give you confidence that he's going to beat Canelo? And let's be honest, man. The way that guy's been carrying on recently outside the ring, I suspect that he's got problems. I think there's some issues there, man, because his behavior.
Which Charlo are you talking about?
Both of them. You know what I mean? You saw what they were doing at the weekend. Utterly disgusting behavior. They're just douchebags, them two at the moment, man. And I just think that I've got to stop short of saying what I want to say, but I suspect that there are one or two issues going on there, man. You know what I mean? And I don't see a guy like that beating Canelo. Canelo's too disciplined, too much a consummate professional. You know what I mean? Charlo, from what I'm seeing of him recently, I don't think he can beat Canelo. No.
Big up Harvey in the chat here. He's put, yo, good to have you here, Harvey. What's going on, my bro? Dean Sinclair says here, Dan Raphael had it 9-1 Canelo going into the 11th.
But Daryl, what do you expect? This is Dan Raphael. This is what I say on this show all the time about people like him. Dan Raphael, Gareth A. Davis, Doug Fisher, Steve Kim, and the list goes on. These guys, man, thank God for social media, so we don't have to listen to these guys, or you know what I mean? We don't. That's the beauty of social media. You can just go online and find several other people, shows like this, and people like you, Daryl, who give honest assessments. You're not in the paid pocket of these fighters, you know what I mean? How can you have Canelo 9-1 up? He's worse than the judges at it. Juan Rafael, right? He had what was the fight the other day?
He's had some shocking cards before.
Yeah. You know, he's a bum. You know what I mean? And tag him into this, man. Tag him in. He can't do nothing anyway. He's a bum, bro. I don't care how many journalistic degrees and stuff you got, man. You shouldn't be in boxing. When you got when you're just like a paid sort of servitude, man. That's what these guys are into, man. You know what I mean? They're just bums, man. Get them out of sport.
Fantasy matchup: Andre Ward versus Canelo. I got Ward, man. I got Ward in that one
all day, all day.
But like would Ward get the decision? Would Ward get the decision?
Whoa, that's another matter. But I mean, I guess if it's hypothetical, then you know we got to say that I think Ward would win.
Yeah, points for me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Canelo would be competitive with pretty much everyone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
but would he beat these guys? I don't think so. Because, like I said, I've seen where he's not. It's not that difficult to outbox him. What Canelo is pretty good at, though, I'll give him that, is he catches up to people late in fights.
Yeah.
But then, as some other people have said, you know what I mean? How comes he's got such great stamina all of a sudden? But anyway, you know, hey, it is what it is.
Ian Hamilton says here, man, I just love Laurie. He just goes in, no filters at all. Yeah, that's Laurie, man. We knew what was going to happen today.
You know what, though? When we started doing the show, you said to me, I want you to come on and speak your mind, tell the truth of it. And that's what I try and do. So when you hear me say this stuff, and Daryl will tell you, all the people watching, I'm not saying anything on here now that I wouldn't say to Daryl or anyone else.
He's not
outside of this forum.
This is what the phone calls are like, man.
No cap. You know, bro, no cap. What I'm saying here is what I say when I'm talking to Daryl, my peers, people in the street. You know, sometimes because of this show, Daryl, people might recognize me and they'll roll up on me and we start talking about boxing. And I always say exactly this. I'm consistent with mines, man. You know what I mean? I'm not in the pocket of fighters like some other people are, man. You know what I mean?
Let's get on to some other news, man. I don't want to talk about Canelo all night, but there has been some
face of boxing. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but we've got other stuff to talk about as well, man. And I'm conscious of the time. So
how dare you not give Canelo all of your show? You know what I mean?
Well, we've had 40 minutes of him. I think that's enough, man. But I mean, this fantasy matchup here, I don't even need to answer it because it's an obvious one for me and you. but listen, Roy Jones Jr.
12 zip to Roy Jones with a possible late stoppage.
Roy Jones Jr.'s
middleweight, no one beats him at super middle.
Roy Jones Jr.'s fighter, Chris Eubank Jr. It's been announced his next fight on December the 11th against Liam Williams at the Motor Point Arena in Cardiff. Yeah, that's one that you could rub your hands on, man. Very good fight that is. Looking forward to that. A great way to close out the year. It is going to be taking place on the same night as Conor Benn against Chris Algieri. But with Liam Williams and Chris Eubank Jr., man, that's going to be a great fight. These two have got a lot of history. They've been going back and forth on social media. I think that the press conferences are going to be entertaining. I think that the fight is going to be entertaining. I think that the crowd and the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable. And then even the undercard, you've got Claressa Shields on the undercard. She'll be making her first appearance in the UK. And you've got Savannah Marshall on the undercard with the view of them two fighting in 2022. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's a great, that really did lift my mood. And what's your initial thoughts on this fight, man?
Hey, man, I'm excited about that fight, man. That's a great fight. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking about it already, and I'm finding it difficult to pick a winner, especially when I heard that the fight is going to take place in Cardiff.
Shout out to Eubank for that one.
Yeah,
He didn't have to go to Cardiff, did he?
I'm not sure if that's a good career decision. Sounds to me like that was possibly financially motivated. I remember his dad. He went to Ireland and fought Steve Collins in St. Patrick's Day in Dublin. And then he was surprised when he didn't get the decision. I mean, come on, man. St. Patrick's Day in Dublin, a guy like Steve Collins as well, a real warrior, that it was highly unlikely that Eubank was going to knock him out. You look back on that and you think, what were you doing, bro? Okay, you might got a couple of extra zeros on the paycheck, man, but that's always going to be an extremely tough assignment.
Are you comparing that to this?
Yeah, I am, because I think that it's going to be a rabid atmosphere, man.
It's going to be hot in there,
Williams
man.
is already on the record. I think more the dislike is coming more from him than it is from Eubank, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he's let it be known, man, that he can't stand Eubank. He wants to knock him out. And you know, when you get a fighter talking like that, it galvanizes his fan base. So they're all going to turn out because he's made it into a grudge match. So all the Welshmen are going to come out. I mean, I think Liam Williams, I'm not sure. I don't think he is from Cardiff, but
I don't think he is. No, he's not from Cardiff.
South Wales, it's not too far.
Yeah.
So all them, man. And anyway, all these countrymen will be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's going to be a real.
Yeah, that might play into Eubank's hands. I mean, Eubank likes a fighter that comes forward. You know, Liam Williams can get hit as well. Does that not play into Eubank's hands?
Yeah. And he can be decked. He got decked a couple of times by Andre, didn't he?
Yeah.
Who's not a big puncher, but he's not a light puncher, Andre.
No,
he can punch. He can punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I like that fight. But if you press me for a winner right now, I couldn't really give you a winner with any real confidence. I might have to see how I'll do my research and stuff like that and see how things play out in the coming weeks. And we see how it goes, man. I mean, Eubank has advantages insofar as he's the taller guy. You would have thought he was the naturally stronger guy. But Williams is strong as well. He hits hard. He's a good boxer. Good chin. You know what I mean? He's experienced.
Got a lot of heart too.
Yeah, man. It's a real 50-50. Maybe even the fact that they're in Cardiff, I'm going to slightly lean towards Williams. I think the points I could see him getting it.
I got Eubank, man. I think that his style will play into Chris Eubank Jr. But with the fight being in Cardiff, it does swing the baton a little bit more to Liam. It's going to be a good fight regardless. But I just think his style, it depends really. I mean, what Eubank really, because he ain't impressed me recently in his last couple of fights. Is he going to go back to the old Eubank where he's throwing a million combinations, or is he going to be that Eubank that tries to fight like Roy? If he's that Eubank that tries to fight like Roy, then I'll pick Williams, mate.
That's what I'm saying, man. These last couple of fights from Eubank, I've not been that impressed.
Yeah.
Not been that impressed, bro. And again, I mean, he fought Marcus Morrison a couple of fights ago. I don't know if you saw, but Zach Parker destroyed Marcus Morrison.
Yeah, I did see that fight. Yeah, Zach Parker looked good, man.
That kind of puts that fight into perspective. I know it was Eubank's first fight back for a while, but he didn't look that great against Marcus Morrison. He's getting tagged as well in that fight. And then his most recent fight against the German Armenian guy, I forget his name. Again, he caught up with a guy in the end, man. But before that, he actually lost a few rounds.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
You know, he can't afford to be in that type of form against Liam Williams. He'll get smashed.
Yeah. Moving on, man, I'm looking forward to that. Before we move on quickly, what show are you going to be watching first? Because you'll watch both of them, but providing that the times, hopefully they don't clash too much, but I'm sure they will. Are you going to be tuning into the Sky show or the DAZN show? Conor Ben's fighting Algeria. You've got Katie Taylor on the undercard. The rest of the card is still to be announced. That's taking place in Liverpool on the same night. What one are you going to be more tuned into?
Oh, definitely the Eubank fight, man. I mean, yeah, Conor Ben, no cap, man. I think he's going to walk through Algeria.
Yeah.
Algeria is going to be on his bike. He doesn't have any power to speak of. And he hardly fights, doesn't he? He does most of his stuff in relation to boxing now behind the microphone.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that good at that either, to be honest.
He's not that bad. He's all right.
He's
not the worst. He's not the worst. I'll say
He's
that.
very politically correct, though, isn't he?
Yeah. He won't say nothing too.
He calls the house fighter every time.
Yeah.
He calls the house fighter every time. When guys are commentating like that, I tend not to. You might as well let Kate Abdo and all them not comment do it. You know what I mean? If you're just going to be the house, call it for the house guy all the time, then you know what I mean? Just let Kate Abdo or one of the other guys call the fight.
Got a comment here.
Then forget about it. I mean, and I'll give you a good example of this, is when Oscar Van Pence fought Robson Conceicao in that fight, the broadcast that I was watching, Algeria was commentating on it, man. And all he kept doing was saying about how well Valdez was doing. He didn't even condemn the thing about the drugs and all that type of stuff. Very lukewarm. I just thought, what's the point? You know what I mean? What's the point? If you're not going to tell the truth, don't bother. But yeah, I think Conor Ben, easy win for Conor Ben to me.
All right. Got a comment here from Conrad. He's put here, and let's segue into this fight, man. Let's segue into all of this weekend's fights. We'll start off with this one since Conrad has left the comment. Jaime Munguia will be taking on Gabe Rosado. That should be a fun fight. I'm looking forward to that. Conrad has asked us for our prediction. I'm just going to go straight off the bat and say I think it will be an entertaining fight. I'm a big fan of Rosado, man. You know, he hasn't beaten everybody, of course, but he comes to fight. And I've got Jaime Munguia winning this on points. I think that Rosado will battle all the way through, but I think Munguia will win it on points. Will be a fun fight to watch. Rosado, coming off one of his best wins, you know, a surprise upset victory that was. And I got a lot of love. I got a lot of love for Rosado, man. I think he's a very good fighter, but Munguia, for me, I've got him on points winning this. Laurie, how do you see it? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, man, I agree with you. Rosado's one of those guys, man. He's been around a long time. He's paid his dues. He's having a bit of a late resurgence. I mean, he knocked out the sort of highly touted Beck the Bully, didn't he? Which was a great knockout.
Great knockout.
Highlight real knockout candidate for knockout of the year. He was
did well against Danny Jacobs.
That. Yeah. And then with the Danny Jacobs fight, I thought he could have got that decision.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I thought.
And where is Danny Jacobs?
Huh?
Where is Danny Jacobs since that?
Danny Jacobs has had a lot of high-profile fights. I mean, he's fought Triple G, he's fought Deryevchenko, he's fought Canelo, he's fought Rosado, you know what I mean, amongst other fighters. He's probably sitting on a nice bag. He's probably thinking to himself, I'm only going to come out of hiding when the bag is right, you know what I mean? Because let's face it, he's been world champion. He's had health issues. So he's not going to be like boxing regularly, is he, at this stage?
Should he retire?
I think so, yeah, but he's probably preserved himself well enough to maybe get another title shot against one of the other guys out there at middleweight, maybe. But then I think he wanted to move up to super middle, didn't he?
Yeah.
The winner
seeing him against Charlo, actually. I think him and Charlo would be a good fight.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
But who have you got, sorry, for this one?
Right, so in terms of Munguia and Rosado, I think youth will probably be served. Munguia is a high energy, high velocity, high output type of guy. So I could see a scenario where he just outworks Rosado. You know what I mean? I don't think he'll stop Rosado. Rosado's like legendary tough. And he's been in with, you know what I mean, some big hitters, and he's always given a good account of himself. But yeah, I would agree with you on that one. I think I'd have to go for Munguia on points.
Yeah. Also, we've got, we'll go to the UK show last, but David Benavidez touched on this earlier. He's going up against Kyron Davis. Now, of course, Benavidez was supposed to be fighting Uzcatagai, but we all know what happened with him. Tested positive for a banned substance. Yep. And he's been pulled out of the fight. Credit to Davis, man, for taking it at short notice. Davis, for me, is not really on the same level as Benavidez. He did have a draw against Durrell, but I'm expecting Benavidez to win this. Probably a mid-round stoppage for me. But shout out to Kyron Davis for saving the show. You know what I mean? He was on standby. He took the call. And yeah, I just think that Benavidez will defeat Davis on Saturday night. Benavidez needs to look good for me, put in an impressive performance, because his name is being mentioned with Canelo, only fighting a week after him. so that will still be fresh in people's memories. And I think that David Benavidez will, do the business.
Yep, I agree. Kyron Davis has taken his fight on 2 weeks' notice. They say he was training for another fight. They always say that, don't they? I can't see him. I couldn't have seen him beating Benavidez anyway. The fact that he's only come in on 2 weeks' notice suggests to me that it will be a fairly routine victory for. I'll be surprised if Kyron Davis is still there by around 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if he's still there. So
I agree. Shout out to my boy, man.
But maybe Benavidez doesn't want to look too good, because if he looks too good, he ain't going to get that Canelo fight.
Shout out to my guy BFV in the chat, man. Boxing First Vlog. What's going on all the way there from the States? Good to see you here, man. Also appears regularly. He's on the Goodfellas podcast with Jeff TV. So shout out to BFV, man. Good to have you here. He's put What's Goodfellas, and he's put here Munguia by decision for that one.
That's what we said. Yeah.
Ian Hamilton has said here, I'm actually surprised that Eubank is fighting Williams. Liam will come all out to win that. What Eubank will turn up. Give Sky credit for putting this on. I'll be watching the 2 shows that night. And also give Sky credit for the fact that that show's not on pay-per-view. Because I think that's something that Eddie Hearn kind of threw out in the air, that they might put it on pay-per-view. Sky was like, hold on, no, we ain't. And they didn't. Do you know what I mean? So that's good for us.
You know what I would say, though? I think Eubank and Sky needed a fight like this, because let's be honest, man. Some of the opponents that Eubank's been in with on this new contract have not exactly been exciting, have they? So a fight like this will get the juices going, man. And it's exactly what Eubank needs in his career, because he needs a fire lit under him, man, because he I wouldn't say he was going nowhere, but he was kind of treading water for so long, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we know he's a high-profile guy. We know he's capable of some good performances. But unless you're fighting top guys, we can't really properly assess him. So I think the fight with Liam Williams, win, lose, or draw, will tell us exactly where Eubanks Jr. is in his career. We will know after this fight. No excuses, man. You know what I mean? We will know exactly where he's at. And as you said before, the Roy Jones thing, I'm not so far under Roy Jones. Eubanks looks like a guy that's kind of stuck between 2 styles.
Yeah.
He's trying to imitate some of Roy Jones's mannerisms with the jab, you know what I mean, and the stance and all that. But there's only one Roy Jones Jr., man. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm at this moment in time, I'm leaning towards Liam Smith because of the fact that the fight's in Cardiff. And I think that could play out a lot. That crowd, the crowd there and cheering for every little move that Liam Williams makes, that could prove vital. But we'll see.
Dean Sinclair has said here, if Eubank goes back to his old style, I see him winning on points, maybe even stopping Williams late on his feet. That's exactly how I feel. If Eubank goes back to what he is, then I could see him doing that. If he fights
you might have to, because I can see, given Liam Williams' mindset, I think he's going to try and go in there and beat Eubanks up. And if he does that, it's going to turn the fight into a war of attrition, which might actually suit Eubank.
No, I think that suits Eubank down to the ground. Yeah. If he comes forward like that, he's going to walk onto something, man. Yeah. He will.
But I mean, let's be honest. Liam Williams has a very good trainer in Dominic Ingle. I mean, sometimes Dominic is a bit up himself and he comes across as a bit of a narcissist and all the rest of it. But we have to also give him credit. He's a good trainer. And I would imagine that they're going to devise a game plan based on some of Eubank's previous defeats, where George Groves and Billy Joe Saunders basically boxed him, didn't they?
Yeah.
They didn't engage with Eubank. They boxed him, and they were able to outbox him quite comfortably, both those guys. So I know Billy Joe tired down the stretch, and Eubanks Jr. made up a lot of ground, and so the fight was close. But with George Groves, he was pretty much having it his way with Eubank until he got that injury, didn't he? And he fought the last couple of rounds one-handed, and he still managed to win. So I would imagine that Dominic Ingle, they're going to come up with a game plan, which will be that you don't engage Eubank too early on, stick behind the jab, wait for the openings, and try and finish strong, box him. rather than just go straight out there and try and take his head off. Now, whether Williams has got the discipline to stick to a game plan like that, especially in the rabid atmosphere that's going to be in Cardiff on that night, we'll see. It's an intriguing fight, though.
Dean Sinclair said here, Sky have pulled Eddie's pants down by having this show on the 11th and not on pay-per-view. Totally agree, man. Sky, they got a little... I saw an interview of Eddie Hearn today, actually, man. He responds well to anything, doesn't he? But, like, he was putting a bit of a brave face on, man, when he was asked about it, you know, with the show being on the same night. And, listen, I'll be watching this fight over Conor Benn in Algeria.
Did Eddie Hearn have his Canelo pajamas on? He's another one, by the way. Bloody hell, man.
No, he didn't. BFB says here, Eddie can't call the terms in this bout. His fighter is the B-side. Listen, going to this weekend, there is another show that Eddie Hearn is promoting, and that is Kid Galahad against Kiko Martinez. Now,
what an underwhelming fight, man, for your first defense. I mean, I know it's a homecoming. I know it's your first defense, but Kiko Martinez, really? I mean, come on, bro. I mean, I can remember Kiko Martinez getting his Kiko ass kicked by Rendell Munro. That must have been about, how many years ago was that? And this guy keeps coming over here fighting everyone, man. He's not beating any of them. I mean, I know he put in a good performance against
Zelfa Barrett.
But then even then, like, I'm looking at that fight, I'm thinking, hang on a minute. So Kiko Martinez must be, what, nearly 40 now, isn't it?
No, I think he's 35, 36.
Oh, he looks older than that.
Yeah, he does look older than
but
that.
Anyway, he's ancient, especially at those smaller weights. 36 is you're getting on in years. And, he's lost to pretty much all the British guys he's fought. And he's had this kind of late resurgence in his career, sort of like fighting Zelfa Barrett. And he's pushing him back and, landing all these punches. I'm thinking, that's interesting. You're that old in your career. You've lost that many fights. Some of them you've been beaten up quite badly. And here you are with this late career resurgence. I started to think, well, I'm not going to say nothing else. But you know what I mean?
Well, Eddie Hearn says that he said that, he approached other guys to fight Kid Galahad and no one took it. And it got to the point where they were looking at the rankings and Kiko Martinez kind of fit the bill in terms of, what was left out there. Can you sympathize with him on that?
I'm sure he did say yes, because Kiko Martinez at this stage in his career, he's not going to get many offers, is he? So of course he's going to say yes. But if you're a fan of boxing, like me and you, I mean, when you saw that fight that was made for that show, what did you think? Be honest. When you saw,
I'll keep it 100 right here. I'm not interested at all in that show, man.
It's a joke thing, bro. I'm
not interested at all. I think the Terry Harper and the other lady, that fight there, I might be more into that. But I'm not interested. I could miss that card.
The thing as well about that is it's like, and I'm going to call this out now, like Kid Galahad, as much as I,
let's hear it.
He's another drug street, by the way. So I've got to get that one in there. I've got to be consistent.
Yeah, I was going to say
that Canelo. I'm going to call this dude out on his bullshit as well. He's popped dirty. Yet another Ingle fighter popping dirty. He's not the first one. So already there's suspicion around Kid Galahad. What I would say about Kid Galahad, he does have skills. He's a very good fighter. But he's out of the ring persona, bro. He's very, very, I mean...
There's something there, man.
It is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is. I mean, like, bro, like, come on, man. It's not like you've just come into this game. You've been around in boxing now for a long, long time. Speak, man. Develop a bit of a personality. Let people into your life see what you're about. You know what I mean? Be honest about that drugs thing as well. All this stuff about, I fell out with my brother and he laced my meat. You know what I mean? Like, so Kid Galahad... Basically, what I'm saying, he's not the easiest guy to like, is he? Because he doesn't give you anything to like. Yeah. I respect him because I respect his skills. I've actually met Kid Galahad a couple of times. He was an all right guy. So
he did look good last time out, didn't he?
Yeah, like what I said, he's a good fighter. But what I'm saying is, man, he's not very marketable. you listen to an interview with him, and all he seems to say is, "It is what it is. It is what it is." You know what I mean? Like in those dulcet Yorkshire tones.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, he's fighting a guy like Kiko Martinez. So what I'm saying, there's absolutely nothing to get excited about.
Nope.
Absolutely nothing. I mean, I watch the fight because I'm a boxing nerd like you. But the casuals, they'll be like, what's that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Big up my boy WM in the building. You're late, bro. He's put here, evening, brethren. I hope you're both well. Good to have you here, WM, man. I'm only playing. Good to have you here, bro. My guy, BFV, he said here, I spoke on this in my preview. Go and check out BFV's channel, people. But he said here, I spoke on this in my preview. Not much is said about him and his UCAD issues. You agree with that, Laurie?
True.
Kid Galahad.
Yeah, exactly. Because people don't want to talk about these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the hypocrisy in boxing as well. You get all these guys when it suits them, when it's Jarrell Miller or or whoever, Larry Albenwinger, whatever his name was. There was this big old kerfuffle and hurrah about it. It seems that kind of energy is not applied elsewhere. It's very selective, isn't it?
Yeah.
This drugs thing. And I hate that about boxing. You know what I mean? If you're going to condemn that, then you condemn it universally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got a guy who's the so-called pound for pound face of boxing, and he's a convicted drugs cheat, and nobody seems to say anything about it.
Yeah.
Fair play to Caleb Plant. He said it. And when he did, all these guys like Dan Raphael and all that was condemning him for it. You know what I mean? And other fighters are saying, "Oh, you've upset Canelo. Yeah, he's got him. You've got Canelo really mad now. He's going to knock you out. I hope Canelo knocks him out. He's been disrespectful." Like, what? Caleb Plant was saying what you man should have been saying. You know what I mean? But anyway.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. On that note, we'll leave it there. Obviously, know you've got places to be on this Friday night. And yeah, another great show. We knew that you'd be digging in on that Canelo situation right now.
Listen, you know what? Just to round that old Canelo thing off, and I want to make it clear, man. Canelo, he finished the fight very well, man. Once he got Caleb Plant going, man, he was clinical in the way he got him out of there. You know what I mean? In fact, Caleb did fall apart rather quickly. You know what I mean? So I'm suspecting maybe he'd run out of gas by that stage because he just seemed to just disintegrate once he got hit with that first left hook.
Conrad just said here, who else could be the face of boxing right now? Other than obviously Canelo.
Well, there could be a lot of people, you know what I mean? There's some good young fighters coming up, and even some of the old guard are still very good. Terence Crawford is a personal favorite of mine. Again, with Terence Crawford, doesn't always avail himself to the public. He's not very media savvy, at least he hasn't been in former years. But, Errol Spence, there's lots of guys out there with talent, man. I mean, I like the look of Jerome Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, Tank Davis, you know what I mean? Devin Haney, Teofimo, although he's acting like a real dickhead at the moment, you know what I mean? But these guys are guys that you would have thought is that new wave, aren't they? You know what I mean? They should be trying to establish themselves and create their own legacy and their own pathway. But all of those guys I've just mentioned, all they seem to, I mean, look at Teofimo, they were turning up the other day with his belts, trying to
that was corny,
clout
man.
with Canelo. I mean, this is what I'm saying, bro. Like this nowadays, what are they doing? What was that, man? Like, what? Explain, Daryl. You're young.
I don't know, man. I thought that was real. I thought that was real corny, man. I thought that was real corny. It was corny.
It was Canelo's night. Teofimo is not even undisputed. Devin Haney owns the WBC belt, right? You turned up there with your. It was cheesy. Did you see the look on Canelo's face when Canelo was looking at it?
Was corny, man.
Like, what's this guy doing? It
was very
fanboyism, man. That's fanboyism.
Francisco says here, the WBC might sanction you for not dedicating this entire show to Canelo. Only 40 minutes, but it was good work like usual. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up here, man. But big up to everybody. Francisco, all of the guys in the chat, BFV, Harvey, Conrad, WM, Dean, everybody. And listen, man, we'll be back next week. Laurie, do you want to close it out? You want to say anything to Canelo on closing.
No, I've said enough about
Give the
Canelo.
guy his flowers, man. You know what I mean?
No,
Give the
listen,
guy...
man, I've given him enough. I'm not going to go any more than that. I said it was a good performance. It wasn't a great performance. It was a good performance. He got the job done. He is a great fighter. There's no dispute about that. But there's a lot of other things that go with him that I just find, I just don't get it, bro. Like I'm exasperated with what goes on around this guy. And like you said yourself, Daryl, it could be a modern day phenomenon. Maybe that's how it is these days. But I've never known the kind of sycophancy that I've seen with Canelo is on another level to what I've seen before. I know Floyd and Manny Pacquiao never got that type of love. Sugar Ray Leonard never got that type of love. I mean, they got love, all of those guys, but this is on a different type of level. Or even the fighters seem to be they're totally obsequious to Canelo. Maybe it's because social media's around more now. So you know what I mean? So it's easier for you to just go online and type out, wow, Canelo, did you see that? Oh, he's got to be the greatest of all time because he beat Caleb Plant, a guy that everyone said wasn't that good anyway.
On that note there, man, we're gonna leave it there. Don't forget to hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Laurie, we're on 935 subs now. So yeah, we're slowly but surely getting there. I reckon by the end of the year, I'll get to 1K. That's my prediction.
I reckon you'll do that before then, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just got to give it a push. Listen, the content is there. Everybody that watches, I get stopped in the street by people who have watched the show and they say how much they enjoy it.
This show,
yeah.
Wow.
And they say they like the show and the content and everything else. I think what we got to do, I think you mentioned something last week about sometimes if you haven't got that many subscribers and stuff like that, people tend not to view your stuff. I guess that does happen. But anyway, man, my belief is that like with any walk of life, you know what I mean? If you keep persevering and the talent is there, then eventually you'll get recognized and acknowledged. So just keep going, man. It will come.
Respect, man. And shout out to everybody.
Dan Raphael on one week, you know what I mean?
I'll reach out to him. We'll see. But shout out to everybody, man. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy the fights. Got quite a few different shows going on. And we'll catch up with you guys next week, man. Take it easy. Have a good evening.